25 mei belandt de Nederlandse versie van het boek van Guenther Steiner in de winkel. En motorsport.com zat met Steiner en had het uitgebreid over zijn nieuwe boek. So, Mr. Steiner, welcome in our show. Your book, the Dutch version of your book, will hit the store at 25th of May. What should I call you now? You're a Netflix star, you're a father, you're a F1 Teambaas, of course, and now a best-selling author. How should I call you?
I don't know. What is the best title you can give me? You called me already Mr. Steiner, which is already, normally I'm called Guenther, so no, you don't need to call me anything. I think it's things I'm happy to do, and the book obviously seems to be successful, which is nice to know,
Yeah, and at the beginning of your career in motorsport, did you ever expected it to write a book?
No, and even I would say 2 years ago, I didn't expect to write a book, it just came out of the blue, the book, So one of these things, again, which happened in my life, a lot of things happened in my life, which they just happened, and then I dealt with it and did the best I could.
And is Drive to Survive important in writing this book? Did it convince you to write this book?
I don't think it convinced me when I was approached to do a book. For sure, the people which approached me had seen Drive to Survive, and they obviously thought I have a good story to tell, because it's always difficult when like for me, it's difficult to say who is interested in my story. Because it's not like, I've got a good story to tell, I'm going to tell everybody. That was never in my mind. It's the same with Drive to Survive. I never envisaged that it will be that people like to see it. For me, I was just doing my job, and nothing else. So, but people just see it and say, hey, maybe people want more of it. And I guess people want more of it.
Yeah, and let's dive into the book. You've mentioning Niki Lauda a couple of times in your book. How important was he for you in your career?
I think Niki was very important in my career in Formula One. When I was working in motorsport, in rallying, I worked there for a long time, I was very happy there. I didn't look to go to Formula One or, I liked Formula One, obviously, because if you're in motorsport this long, you need to like it. And I was approached by Niki, and I think not only the approach, but also how he introduced me to Formula One. It's like having a mentor like him to introducing you to people. You get immediately a lot of more respect than when you have to do everything yourself, and that I think it helped me a lot.
And what kind of things did he learn you? What are you still applying today in your job?
Just to be straightforward, never try not to waste time by procrastinating. If there is bad news to be told, tell them, because it's no point. Bad news don't get any better over time. It's just like deal with it as professional as you can, and always keep on moving, and focus on the important things. Focus the important things and not the sideshows.
In your book, you worked with him at Jaguar, of course. In your book, you're saying that you can write an whole other book about Jaguar. Why was it a drama at Jaguar? What was the drama?
The drama was there was so many people involved, and outside of motorsport and especially Formula One. If you don't know the business, it's very difficult to manage it, because and I'm not saying it's difficult, it's just different. It's not it's not better or worse. It's just different. It's a business and the only way to learn it is by doing it, because there is only 10 teams in the world, in Formula One. And if you're not part of one team for a period of time, you cannot know what is going on. You need to know the players and all that stuff. And I think when Jaguar, when the big corporate came in, obviously everybody loved it, because all of a sudden they could go to races and everybody wanted a piece of it. And people in power, obviously, they thought they know, and they had people around them telling them things which I wouldn't say they were not true. They were just not realistic, and therefore it was always something was happening, because somebody had a great idea and it was not doable. So it was always, you never could work in peace.
What are the things that you've learned at Jaguar at that hectic time that you are doing different now at Haas?
I've learned, just like if there is something to discuss it immediately, and never panic. Because at the time with Jaguar, I could have panicked every day of the year, because there was somebody was making some panic. No need to panic about nothing. If there's nothing, just tell, no, this is not happening. And in the end, he's just saying, hey, this is not how it works. And even if it has consequences to you. So I think I'm very fortunate now in the position I'm now with Mr. Haas. He's the complete opposite. He asked and I explained it to him. And he says, as long as the job is done good, I'm with you. I'm backing you up.
Yeah, you also had a couple of rough years at Haas, of course, with rich energy, and last year with the Mazepin situation. What was the impact of those kind of situations with rich energy and Mazepin last year for you personally?
I think the rich energy. Personally, for the rich energy was much easier to deal with. It was a business deal which was right in the beginning, and then when it started to go wrong, we realized it, and we made decisions, and they had actually no big consequences for us. Maybe publicly it's portrayed worse than it was because there was some very good people there at Rich Energy, but internally they had their internal issues which I had nothing to do with, and we just had to change track. That was it. It was a lot simpler than the Uralkali and Nikita position because in the end that involved a war, and I never thought that I somehow have to take business decisions because they're based on one country invading another one, so they were a lot more difficult and a lot more players involved and a lot more political, but in the end you just have to deal with it. You have to deal with the best you can, and then you can say, at least I did my best at the time, and whatever comes out with you just move on.
In the book you're writing that your friend is calling you a walking disaster because of all those things that have happened. Did it ever cross your mind to say, okay, I'm done with it, let's quit Formula One, I'm going to do something else?
No, that was jokingly the walking disaster. They all know that there is always some drama attached to us, and I think everybody knows that. But you put me in a spot now. Do I have to think, is it actually me which always makes a mess out of it? No. But I think it's just like when you always try to do things, you always have to see the good things. There is always disasters or dramas, let's call them, and we always sort them out somehow. But if you think about the good things, and somebody reminded me a few weeks ago, hey, Guenther, you know that Haas F1 is the only new startup team in the last 20 or 30 years which is still around, and that shows for persistence, and that we do, not me, as a team, we do some things right. Obviously, there's a lot of hurdles because F1 is a very complicated and complex business. So obviously you will have problems there, but maybe also the drama comes out because we are a lot more open. We are not trying to hide anything. We confront it face on. There is a drama. Okay, let's speak about it. Let's solve it and move on. And that is what we did. We had a lot of dramas, but there was not one drama big enough yet to take us down. So we have to take that positive for us.
Yeah, and you're also writing in your book that in the Mazepin situation, you wanted to go to your daughter and wife. Why are they so important for you? What do they give you as maybe a distraction in those kind of situations?
I think family for me it's the most important thing I've got. In the end, all the rest of it. You cannot get everything because for me the team is important as well, the people there, because I had a lot of backing. But when I want to get away with it, if I spend time with my family, that is the time when I recharge my batteries, And obviously that was a very demanding period of time, and the only thing I want to go away, forget about it, digest everything what was done in the last week or how long it was before I got back home. Just get over it, rethink everything, and see if I missed something. But this gives me the time just to recharge my batteries when I'm with my family.
Do you have some personal ambitions after Formula One? Do you have any dreams?
No, in my life a lot of things just happened. I never had a plan. I never planned to be an F1 team principal. It's just things happen. You work, and then something happens. Something is interesting, and then you do them. And I hope something interesting is coming up once I'm done with Formula One, and I can still keep going. Obviously, what is very important to me is my health. If up to now it's very good, I can do what I need to do, but it's not a given, and I respect that. But if I have my health, for sure, there's something interesting coming up out of the blue, which I will take as a challenge and try to do something different. But in the moment, I'm still very committed to what I want to do with Haas. I want to bring the team to a point where it doesn't need me anymore. That is the most important thing for me.
Okay, then we're going to something outside of Formula One. We're going back to 1992. You had a crazy adventure in the Dakar Rally. I read in your book. Can you tell the viewers what happened there in 1992?
Yeah, it was the craziest thing. I mean, I never done the Dakar before. I was pretty young at the time still, and I always wanted to do the Dakar because it was an adventure. At that time, even more than now, it was in the desert, and it was the year when it was Paris, Cape Town, and I got the job to build a car for a team which had numerous cars. It was at the time. It was not as professional as it is these days. There was a lot done on just like by chance, call it like this. And this was one of the teams which took a lot of chances, So I was in this truck, which actually was the truck which the Princess of Monaco used 1 or 2 years before, which had that what you call them, the rollers on the side, and the truck was just was not any good. And I mean, I don't think you've got the time to go through all of it, but I would say the biggest thing was we broke down because we got stranded in a salt lake. I mean, I didn't know that something like this exists. You're out in the desert, you're going, and then you see a road going around the place, and I didn't know about it. And one of the guys said, "Oh, this is a salt lake," and the other guy which was driving said, "Oh, we take a shortcut, let's go over it." And a salt lake. I learned that one. It's not very stable, and it is like very light, and you fall into it. You all of a sudden drop 2 meters, even if there is no drop. It is the weirdest thing ever happened in my life, And you just drop down 2 meters and you get stuck. So we were stuck in that salt lake for 2 days, and had to get people to help us out because you have to bring stones in that you can get out with this truck. And obviously you had only 2 shovels, so you paid the people by the hour to shovel, and sitting in the truck waiting to get out of there. And it took us two days, and we fell behind the whole rally. And then is normally what you call it's the broom car, which takes up all the people which got stuck or broke their car in the Dakar at the time. But we were too proud to do that because we wanted to bring the truck home because it had a value, and the owner, obviously we wanted to bring it back, and we fell back and didn't take the broom car, so we were on our own in the desert. And when you tell these stories now, I almost don't believe them myself, but they're true. We got stuck in a sandstorm for 2 days, and we had this one guy we picked up on the road as a guide to take us through the desert because there was nothing else. We didn't know where we were anymore. And we were stuck, and then one morning you hear camels, and we were like, this guy's got hallucinations. He said, I woke off and find them. He found them. He came back 2-3 hours after with Tuareg, with the tribe, with the Tuaregs on camels. Unbelievable. I mean, they invited us to their tent, and we had to drink camel yogurt. You know how that feels when you don't know where it comes from. And the Tuaregs, I mean, these people actually, you couldn't see anything in the sandstorm. They took us to a military base so we could get gas and get going there from again. We got back to a normal road. It was like, as I said, I could stay here if I would put every little piece into it for half an hour or an hour to tell you the story. But it was quite an amazing adventure for me. And I always say, what I brought back from the Paris-Dakar? My life. I was happy with that one. I got back alive. That's the only thing I brought back from the Dakar.
There was also a story about the soldier he wanted some beer, and so he can get you guys to a hotel.
Yeah, we were running out of diesel again on this truck, and all of a sudden a truck with a military truck with a tank on the back appears, and we asked, what have you got in there? Diesel. Can we buy some? No. Okay, we are not having enough diesel. but you can buy my antelope and then I give you some diesel. And he just wanted to sell half of an antelope, and we had to buy the antelope even if he didn't want the antelope. But I didn't understand it, but in the end we bought half an antelope of the guy, because he had it on, obviously they shot the antelope somewhere, and they had it on their bull bar hanging in front of their truck. It is weird, when you go back now and I think about it, it's like, and I personally don't have any photography of these things, but one of the guys, which was a very nice guy, which was in track with me, had it, but I would need to get in contact with him, because for sure he still has got it, because for him it was a big adventure, because he was not a motorsport guy, he just loved Africa. He was an Africa expert at the time, so he was there to take photos. So I would need to try to get, because for sure he has got photos of what I'm telling, so people would believe it.
Is that your craziest story in your career, or are there some more crazy stories?
Yeah, I think if I would think a little bit longer, I come up with, as I said, I always was involved in drama. It didn't start only in Formula 1. It started long time before.
So we can expect another 10 books from you with all those stories.
I don't know. The biggest thing is to find the time to remember them, and when I remember them, I would have to make notes. So when they are written down, that I've got the full thing, because they come up sometimes. Like these stories, they came up. I told somebody I haven't told that story of the Dakar maybe for 15, 20 years to anybody, and it just came up in one conversation, and someone said, are you making this up? No, it's true. And people which know me would tell them that I wouldn't tell a story like this just to lie, because there's no need for it. I've got enough real stories to tell. So and then they said, you need to put this in the book, and that's what we did. But it's more like remember them than anything else. These stories, the stupid things I did in my life.
Yeah. So at the end of May, 25th of May, your book "Surviving to Drive" will hit the Dutch store, the Dutch version. So. We're looking forward to read it. Mr. Steiner, thank you very much for this interview, and good luck in the rest of the F1 season.